Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gritty Hour. Today I have a special guest from Minnesota, Marisa Simonetti. Am I saying your name right?
You are,
All
yeah.
right. And she ran for office in, I guess, a local office, and I think you have plans to run for a statewide office soon. So welcome to the Gritty Hour, Marisa.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, for having me.
Oh, sure. It's great to have you on. So tell us a little bit about what you ran for.
So
First, we'll take that first.
in 2024, there was a special election for Hennepin County Commissioner in one of these seven districts.
Okay.
And I had no political background. I am a mother and I have business experience throughout all my 20s. You know when you just have that feeling that you're supposed to do something and go and do it?
Mm-hmm.
That's that feeling I had with running for a special election. I didn't really know why,
Yeah.
but went down to the government building, paid the $50 filing fee, and it was a whirlwind from there.
Isn't this a beautiful country?
Yeah, anybody could run for office if their heart's in it.
Yeah.
The not as hard as people think.
What was the office you were running for?
So I was running for Hennepin County Commissioner, and County Commissioner is actually an overlooked position, but it's really important because they set property taxes, and from their budget, they fund things like the sheriff's department, the justice system, and then like maybe a little less exciting things like libraries and parks and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they play a role in addressing crime, so it's really important.
Oh, yeah. I'm in New York. So tell us a little bit about where are you located in Minnesota?
So I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Minneapolis. I heard of that.
Yeah, right in the Midwest. You probably
Yeah.
fly if you're going to the
Car-
California.
Kirby
Have
Puckett. I know Kirby Puckett.
okay. Have you
Yeah.
been to Minnesota?
No, no. I wouldn't mind going.
Yeah.
What's the weather like there at this time of year? We're recording on the first day of spring. So
Oh, today
welcome.
is today actually the first day of spring.
It is. Welcome to spring. Yeah.
Ah. So it's cold here right now, but it is sunny and the weather will be crazy. It'll be like 40 or 50 degrees, and then we'll have freezing snow the next, like within 12 hours.
Mm,
So our winters can be a little bit crazy, but the summers are the most beautiful thing, and it's why you choose it.
right. Yeah. So Minneapolis, how's Minneapolis going? How's everything going over there?
Well, some people would say that there's always here's one thing I've learned in politics. There's always something going wrong. And I have during kind of this downtime between when I ran in 2024 and when I'm going to run again in 2026,
Uh-huh.
my focus right now has been on having fun and connecting with people in a genuine way. So I've kind of unplugged from some of these things and I'm just working hard on, you know, some other positive things like the pizza video or things like that.
Yes, I should tell the folks you one of your videos went viral, which was it your video or you just were in a video about
Yeah,
giving out pizza to was it the homeless?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my friend included me in handing out pizza from his business to homeless, and the video wound up going viral. I think on just on TikTok, it had something like 30 million views,
Mm,
which
wow.
is 1% of the United States population.
Right.
So that's actually, I didn't realize how substantial it was just on TikTok. So those are the things that I'm focused on, having a good time, being a mom, just pursuing my goals and finding ways to connect and give back.
Yeah. Well, you yourself have a pretty good following. I was checking out your Instagram page. You have a pretty good following there.
Yeah. I mean, my Instagram's decent. TikTok, I probably have the most. There's like 17,000. TikTok is really like where things are at right now, I found. Are you on TikTok at all or social media?
Uh, I think so. I do have the Instagram page. I started following you on the Gritty Hour follows you on Instagram.
Oh, I'm flattered.
Yeah. The TikTok was given a reprieve. It was on the chopping block a couple of months ago.
Yeah, with that, no, that was a huge political issue.
Hmm.
Follow along with kind of all that was going on with that.
Well, I think it was President Trump attributes a lot of his the vote that he got from I guess, the 20 to 25-year-olds or 18 to 25-year-olds from the TikTok videos that he posted or his campaign posted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a pretty big presence on TikTok. I mean, huge, huge, huge,
Huge, huge. Yeah.
a huge
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. There's, whatever works, So it worked for him. But
How's the weather there in New York?
it was actually pretty nice today. We got into the 60s, so for this time of the year, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
not cool, pretty warm. So yeah, I know Minnesota has rough winters, right? But we get rough winters sometimes in New York too. So
How was this last winter for
it
you?
was colder than normal. Yeah, I just did a podcast Tuesday morning, and I was telling the fella who's actually my nephew, who's into real estate. I wanted to see what his impression of the new administration would be on his business. So I had him on to talk about that, and I was telling him what the hell was I? The hell were we talking about? You asked me. I forgot what you asked me already.
Well, I said, how was the weather? And then we got into talking about real estate and business. And
Oh, how the hell did I get from there to there? I don't know, but
we're on an adventure.
yeah. No, we were talking. Oh, I was talking about how the price of oil. That's what I was talking about. Was how the price of oil took a bite out of my ass this year because I have a business and a store and my home, and the price of the oil for both places was just under $4 a gallon.
Yeah.
So that takes a big chunk out of your coffee and cigarette money. That's what I was telling him.
What kind of cigarettes do you like?
Usually Marlboro Lights. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you, I get suckered. I shouldn't admit this as a candidate. I get suckered. That's one of my vices. This nicotine. I just had to get myself off that vape because you can do it 24/7.
Yeah, the vapes are worse, I think, than smoking.
And I'll just smoke my toke all day long because they've got those yummy flavors like strawberry or mango. The
Yeah.
mango gets me. It's
Really?
the Yeah. How do you feel when
I don't know.
you?
I don't smoke either in my store or in my house, so I think that's my saving grace. Or else smoking. I'd be smoking 2 packs a day if I could smoke. You know.
We'd be out smoking our tokes.
Yeah. But I did try the vape, and it's a different delivery. It's I find myself choking when I use the vape.
Really?
Yeah. Because did you ever smoke cigarettes?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's a different way to inhale, I think, and I don't have that down yet. So, but it is cheaper. I should give it another shot.
We all gotta have some sort of vice, right?
Yeah,
Nope.
I was telling you before we started recording that you're the second person from Minnesota I've had on the show. I had a fella on, a professor, talking about the caves of Minnesota, and
Yeah.
he was talking about the Minneapolis St. Paul area, and there is caves under your feet over there. So it was an interesting podcast if you want to check it out.
Yeah, that sounds super interesting. I'll actually discover the caves. I haven't seen them yet. And tomorrow they have the Wabasha Caves is known for swing dancing. So
Oh,
go swing dancing tomorrow night. Have you ever swing danced or anything like that?
no, no, no. I I have a friend who has a military show every year, and they do like 40s swing music during that. World War II era swing.
Yeah, it's wholesome. It's like good exercise and it's fun.
Yeah. Well, good. Enjoy yourself then. Yeah.
You'll have to go with your friend and
It'll be cold down there. If it's in the cave, it'll be cold, I'm sure, down there. I hope they have a heater down there for you.
maybe we'll freeze to death.
So, without further ado, I want to ask you, because I didn't ask you while we were communicating via email, what is the office you want to run for?
Yes, so I am going to file on May 28th, 2026. And there's several different, 2026 is a big year because it's even. I have not officially announced, but I know.
Oh, you don't have to tell us here if you don't want to.
I haven't told anybody yet.
Okay.
And it will be something statewide, but there's several statewide offices. So it's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be a big jump from just one section of a county. But one thing I know is I feel like prompted kind of in my heart, like this is the direction I'm supposed to go. And there's been like several confirmations along the way. So I just know when I trust that inner voice, uh, doors open and it is done, whatever
Mhm.
is part of your path. And you just know that for some part of your life purpose, you're meant to go this way. So,
Is it, do you feel like, well, I was, what I, for want of a better word, the open office you ran for, was that sort of like an ad hoc campaign because it was a last minute thing?
I actually ran a pretty sophisticated campaign for what it was. In the special election, there were six candidates, and I jumped in the last day before the end of the filing deadline. Um, and in that short period of time, I made top two. And I spent less than $750 on my campaign on purpose because I do not think you should be able to buy justice or office. I do not like that at all. And I beat somebody who spent 71,000. So that speaks to the power of when you come from the heart and are genuine, people can feel that.
Yeah.
Like when someone's a talking head, you can throw money all day long, but like you got to come from the heart. And so then the final runoff was 2 weeks later. It was me versus a lady who was a former state rep. She had name recognition, and it was not a nonpartisan race, but this area is mostly blue, and she was on the blue ticket. And she had funding, and she had their data and everything. So I only lost by 1,000 votes, being the only two on the ballot in a special election. That told me that there was something there. So no matter what happened, I had to run again November 5th. And I jumped in and I filed, and it was just me versus her again. I had some personal challenges and learned a lot for going forward and my strategy for next time.
Good. That almost answers my second question. So you felt confident that you gained traction enough to do a statewide run for your next.
Yeah, whatever resources or support I need will come to me. In the exact same way as my campaign before, people took my hand and were kind and like it's like a clue, right? This, you need that. Every little thing that I needed showed up,
Mhm.
and I just know it'll be the same.
So you have some more tools in your tool belt now. You know you've been through the process, even though it was a local process. You know what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, I understand much more the like quote lay of the land per se.
Hmm.
The Yeah, but at the same time, it comes down to people and connecting with them that they feel you understand and can support them in the next 4 years of their life vision.
Hmm.
So that ultimately, this next year, I'm taking the time to really listen and feel and the energy of people in Minnesota, so that I can properly present what the issues are and how I can best serve.
Right. So without telling me what you're going to run for, can you give me what you feel you're strongest, or the things you feel the most strong about issue wise?
Yeah. So when I ran for Hennepin County Commissioner, they set property taxes, and I'm all for strong families because that when you have a strong family, that just makes so many other things in life better. Um, so I am someone who always, as a single mom, believes in fiscal responsibility. We all have to balance our own, like you with the gas prices going up, you had to find
Right.
a way to sense. In the same way, the government it's unhelpful if they're a burden on hardworking people, but yet at the same time, you also have to find ways to support people who need help and find the intersection of both. So, name of the game of being a single mom is be resourceful and efficient. I'm good at that, and that's a transferable skill.
So would you consider that your most pressing issue?
Uh, I mean, finances underpin almost everything we do, and then there's some of these other social issues that are just argued about and nothing really ever changes.
Hmm.
So I prefer to stay out of arguing and just include people in having fun and living their best life, kind of like I do on social media. I have fun, I keep it light, and that's that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to approach it, I think, right?
Yeah, what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I
Yeah.
I I started a podcast. I like
Okay.
I like learning things, you know.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's a
What's something really cool you've learned recently?
well, first of all, while you were giving me your last answer, I looked up. It was Dr. Greg Brick is the guy who ran was on the podcast about the caves of Minnesota.
Okay.
No, I've learned a lot from a whole cornucopia of people just as they come on. You know, I'll have somebody comes on, they just wrote a book, or like I said with my godson the other day, he was giving me his insight about real estate. You know, I've learned a whole ton of stuff from a whole ton of different people just from doing this podcast, you know.
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
that kind of your intention behind starting it or one of the intentions?
Yeah, shits and giggles is why I did it to begin with. But, you know, I've gotten into it just talking to people I don't know about issues I'm not overly familiar with, you know,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
exposing myself to a whole different, you know, a whole different approach to learning, you know.
Yeah. I've been on several different podcasts recently, and I love having conversations as well because you can learn so much from people that you wouldn't normally cross paths with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love hearing your stories and feedback as well. That's fun for me. I love learning too.
Yeah, and I like learning. I like having people from different parts of the country, the United States, and I've even had some people from Canada. And they're all different perspectives. That's what I enjoy the most, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to divulge too much, but do you have a political leaning that you want to discuss, or you don't have to?
Yeah, no, I'm not offended. I am a registered Republican, but mostly because that's just how I was raised. We've already talked about I'm fiscally conservative, but socially, like I am fairly liberal, and I just don't. I let people do what they're gonna do, right? Like
Right,
it's hurting anybody. I mind my own business. That's how I live.
right,
So, yeah, when you're running for office, you kind of have to pick something because the party does offer things like endorsement support and all of that. So, yeah, independent candidates really seem to struggle and only get a small, like 7% or so of the actual vote, which to me feels like wasting my time.
hmm
So, yeah, yeah, I was supported for a while by the Republican Party here in Minnesota, even though it was a nonpartisan race,
hmm
and spoke at their Senate district conventions and congressional district conventions, that sort of thing.
right. It's generally a blue state. I hate to use that because I don't like that term, red and blue either. But
Yeah,
I think Minnesota is generally a blue state. Yes.
that's 100% true.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
You had. I remember when Ronald Reagan, because I'm 612 years old, so I remember when Ronald Reagan ran for his second term. I think he ran against Mondale, Walter Mondale, and I think Minnesota was the only state Mondale won. Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
it's tough, tough cookies here. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of winners that came out of your state, Marissa. You know
Yeah.
that wrestler was the governor. Was his name?
Oh, Walls.
How much?
Tim
No,
Walz.
no, no. This guy was a wrestler.
Oh,
Can't remember his name. And then they had Al Franken was a senator. So you know,
that's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have a lot of quirky candidates over there in Minnesota.
Well, yeah, I take it as a compliment.
Well, you might be the exception. You know. Um,
Is New York blue? I grew up in Pennsylvania, so
New York is pretty damn blue. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you're kind of in a similar, yeah.
Except, well, I'm in a very red area of New York, so
Yeah.
it's New York is like it's like the country. There's a lot of red, but in the population centers are generally blue. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I'm in the process of moving this podcast room. I'm in a different location where I did most of my podcasts.
Oh,
And for the first 15 minutes of this conversation, I was relying on the light that God gives us every day for free. But now the sun is setting here in New York, and I'm trying to fix my lighting as we're talking. So
you need one of those ring lights.
yeah, no, I have one of these. Well, I have something like that. But anyway, I could see myself starting to get into the shadows more. So I apologize for that. But
It's mysterious.
yeah, I've only been doing this for 5 years, and I'm still learning. How to plug things in and what the hell I'm doing. I'm not 100% sure. So
You know what it reminds me of as you get darker? It's like when they go and they have you ever seen those where they interview those gangsters and like they muffle their voices and they have
oh
like a
yeah, yeah, I'm going in. I'm going in the witness protection program right after this.
we're gonna put the bar right here.
Right after this recording, and then I'll just, like you said, have my voice disguised and the whole nine yards. So
Gangster.
yeah. So do you think I don't want to keep getting back to this, but do you think the issue you just described would be the most resonating issue among people in Minnesota?
Financial issues.
Yeah, financial in general, but yeah,
Um, I think people are starting to really feel it. However, most people are super easily triggered by some of these other hot topics. And can very easily be led down emotional rabbit holes where they just waste their time and don't focus on making their own lives better because they're ranting and raving about things that cannot be changed or they're never going to take action to change. So I think if people actually considered where we sit in a socioeconomic climate and landscape, they would be more concerned about the dollars and cents because focusing on some of these issues, social issues, um, I probably shouldn't say this, but it's kind of a waste of time.
yeah, because the bottom line is the bottom line, right? Financial,
Yeah, and other things will sort themselves out, and there's
right?
alternative ways to address some of these social issues. Like people are so addicted to suffering and being upset that they don't even realize that they're addicted to being. So I was a psychology major and I studied trauma, brain development, child development, that sort of thing, and people actually do become psychologically addicted to trauma and suffering where it feels normal and it feels like this is how it is and this is how it's always going to be.
Right.
That's that's one of the reasons why I've shifted to just having more fun even on social media because the life was getting sucked out of me in the last final month of my campaign. I was like, this is not healthy at all.
Right.
I have to, like, being a woman, you have to remove yourself from that energy. And I felt the life inside me, like my hobbies, I started playing tennis again. Like, even my face was brighter.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's not that people don't want to solve the problem or address the problem, but you have to come from like a higher vibration place
Hmm.
to even be able to do that or consider why you're just banging their heads on the wall. So, yeah, I saw a lot of that.
I'd love to know what your impression is of RFK Jr. in his new role.
So tell me more. I've been a little bit unplugged
Oh
because,
well, he is President Trump's uh, appointed head of the Department of Health. The Secretary of Health and Human Services, I believe, is the official title. So
okay.
he is big on looking at the root causes of, say, the exponential rise of autism among children in today's population, and whether it's dietary or what are the causes of it.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of because I was actually he ran for president before. He ran as a Democrat, and then the Democrats didn't allow him on the primary ballots, which I have an opinion on that I won't bother sharing. But so he ended up running as an independent,
Yeah.
and then ended up supporting Donald Trump, I guess in return for Trump making him the head of the Department of Health or Health and Human Services. So, yeah, I was just curious if you had an opinion on him. Uh, but if you don't, that's cool too.
Yeah, well, I mean, autism definitely is on the rise, and I have a cousin who's autistic. So, and I see just how hard that is, and whether it's not this or that, definitely, because that's hard on parents to have to care for a child. Like taking as a mom, taking care of kids is a labor of love. It's hard enough as it is. Do
Right.
you have kids?
No, I don't have any children, but I know it's the hardest job you can have. I
Yeah.
never had kids, but I was one once, and I know I was a pain in the ass to my parents. So how many kids do you have?
I have just one son so far.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
So, yeah, he and I actually got into a little trouble. We were out doing pranks, I shouldn't admit this, throwing snowballs at cars driving by.
Oh, nice. Well, I did that when I was how old? How old is your son?
He's 7, he just turned 7.
Well, yeah. Well, somewhere in that vicinity, I used to throw snowballs at cars and buses. So,
Do you remember laughing as you did it?
of course, I used to actually. My favorite target was city buses as they went by. So there was no technically no personal property was involved.
Did anybody ever yell at you?
No, no, no.
Some people cheered and laughed as we were doing it.
Yeah,
I didn't do any, I was just filming, but
yeah. Well, I do remember on Halloween throwing eggs at those same city buses. So you know, so
eggs.
eggs. Yeah.
You didn't
Of course,
ever
they're too expensive now to throw eggs. You gotta save the eggs.
But snowballs are free.
Snowballs are free, yep, and they don't last long, so you might as well throw 'em. Yeah. Well, that's good. It sounded like it was good, clean fun. You didn't hurt anybody, did you?
No, we didn't hurt anybody, but we got yelled at a couple times and someone called the cops on us.
Oh, nice. Okay.
People
Well,
are in control.
yeah, I'm sure the cops were glad to respond to that call.
What do you think they were thinking?
I don't know. What did they say when they showed up?
Um, I got a disorderly conduct ticket.
Really? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
All right.
As my 7-year-old threw snowballs.
Well, it's life experience. You can't put a price on that. See,
You're like, and this is our political candidate?
I was just gonna say I might have to edit the snowball story out so you could still have a shot there.
I don't care. I'll stand on business.
You get a hell of a lot of snow over there in Minnesota, so you have a lot of ammunition. Yeah. Well,
I think it's funny. I'm a silly goose.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's probably the approach we need in politics nowadays.
Have a little more fun.
Yeah, you got to have a fun approach. I'm not a member of either party. I've been an independent for about 30 some odd years, so
Ah,
things that are out of the norm appeal to me. People that don't do the same old shit when they're running for something. Your approach I would think you would stand out more than other candidates for being willing to take a risk from the usual protocol. Yeah.
things exciting and fresh.
Yes, yes. Well, I knew you were running. That's why I put this American flag behind me. So I have this background. I don't know which star is yours over there in Minnesota, but I figured I'd get a little patriotic since I have a future candidate on the podcast.
Yeah, the North Star.
The
True
North
North.
Star, yeah. It's probably not in this picture then. So, have you ever been on the East Coast?
So I grew up in Pennsylvania, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're in New York. I grew up just south of you, right outside of Harrisburg.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been to Gettysburg at least 28 times. I'm a big Civil War learner, student, if you'd like.
Times.
Yeah, I used to go every single summer. I didn't go last summer, but I'm going this summer to Gettysburg. It's a beautiful part of the United States, the Gettysburg. I used to stay in Harrisburg actually when I went to Gettysburg.
Huh.
Yeah.
You stayed in the downtown area or?
Yeah, when I used to go when they did the reenactments of the Gettysburg battle, and
Yeah.
the hotels in Gettysburg are always booked solid during that particular time, first, second, third of July. So when I went during that time, I would stay in Harrisburg. So there's actually a nice Civil War museum in downtown Harrisburg.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, there is.
yeah. So
We we went to that as kids. That's been around for a long time.
it's been around at least 25 years or so, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. It's beautiful building. It's like up on, yeah.
Yeah, it's up on a hill. It's nice architecture, that building. I enjoyed that building. Yeah.
Yes. I'll never forget the exhibit at the end where it's like they're showing the gangrene, the doctor with the, do you remember that one?
Oh, the medical section. Yeah, there is a
Oh,
section there that deals with the medical. Yeah. A little
yeah.
rough. A little rough, you know.
Just a little.
You want
Yeah.
to you want to go there after lunch, not before lunch, you know. Yeah.
That's right. So you love history.
I have a major history. I hate the word buff too, so but I'm a major student of history, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
What's your favorite time period?
Specifically the Civil War.
Okay.
So
Huh.
the mid 1800s, yeah.
What about the Civil War just draws you in?
I have relatives that fought for the 28th Pennsylvania, and in fact, they fought at Gettysburg as well. And I don't know. I found it interesting. There's a lot of the way modern America is. A lot of that was dictated by what happened during the Civil War. You know, you can see the origins of that, and you could juxtapose that and also say it was a much simpler life back then. You know, so I found that appealed to me as well.
Ah, simpler.
Yeah, everybody got around on horses and carriages, and you know, so I'm a year into a house that was built in 1820, and I can't get over the fact that Abraham Lincoln was like 11 years old when the house I'm currently sitting in was built.
That's crazy. Do you how's the foundation? Like when's the last time it was updated on the interior?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I've only had this place for about a year, so
Yeah.
yeah.
What about it just made you want it?
Well, it was a friend of mine. It's actually two houses and about five barns, so it's a pretty big property. A friend of mine was retiring, moving down with her daughter in New Jersey, and wanted to sell her property, and I bought it.
Ah, so it was just an arm's length transaction. It wasn't even listed. It's just you knew her and it
It
was
was
meant to,
it was sort of a private transaction. It wasn't listed, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, huh.
So yeah. So, but I like it. I mean, it's over 20 acres, and it's a nice, quiet place. So, you know, I'm digging it, and it does have a historical element to it. You know, like I said, the house I'm in is in 1820. The other house is from like 1970. Boring.
Yeah. Just a little change of pace.
Yeah. So I don't know how we got off on that tangent, but yeah, that's how I ended up where I'm at now. So, um, so when did you move to Minnesota, Marissa?
So I moved here in 2013 for my dad's job. He's the mechanical engineer, and so the whole family came out here, and
Oh,
yeah, it's been home ever since. Are you New York? You're born and raised in New York,
yeah, I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. Yeah, yeah,
and now you transit. It sounds like a little more rural now.
yeah. I'm about an hour and 15 minutes north of New York City now. So,
Okay.
but I worked many years on Wall Street, so
Really?
this is the fastest lane I want to be in at this point in my life. You know.
What was it like working on Wall. You are so calm.
Oh yeah.
I, is, I would have pictured someone who worked on Wall Street as a little more high strung.
I've always been sort of laid back, yeah. But I don't know.
What was it like working on Wall Street?
Well, it was fun when I look back on it. Probably wasn't fun when I was doing it on the day to day, but you know, it's I recommend New York City to everyone to try at least once in their lifetime.
Yeah.
You know,
You probably have some ideas on what's going on now with the market then, with your experience.
yeah, the market's probably experiencing trepidation on the tariffs that are being imposed on other countries for our trade. But I think in the long run, it'll probably end up being better for us economically. I don't know how you feel about the tariffs.
Yeah, it seems like there's a long-term vision, and Trump's a business guy, and he's done well.
Yeah.
So, from a business perspective, he at least has a proven record. But we'll see because you probably notice sometimes there's like some shocks. People don't quite know how to respond yet.
Yeah, I think it was a short term. The short term shock, as you describe it, is probably necessary, you
Yeah.
know. But I think like you said, in the long run, it'll end up better for the country itself, you know. As we're speaking today is the 20th of March, as we're recording. He signed an executive order dismantling the Department of Education. I don't know if you heard that today.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Marissa?
I think from what I've seen, a lot of these bureaucracies and departments get so huge and kind of run rampant. I haven't looked into the specifics of it, but they become such bloated, right? And even in any business, 20% of the organization does 80% of the work. And that's just Pareto's principle, even in any industry. So there definitely could be some optimization across the board. And I was just talking with someone about this recently that people are concerned there will be a lot of jobs that are displaced, right? Where are these people going to go? What are they going to do? How are they going to take care of their families? And just like when we got cars or we got phones, things got faster and more efficient, and we figured it out. So I think people have to kind of take their power back and believe that they can figure it out. And but there is some comfort in, holding on to the old way of things.
Right.
But yeah, what do you think? Kind of on a more specific level of everything.
Well, it's been a thorn in my side, the Department of Education for a while, and in fact, on this podcast, I've had several episodes that dealt with the Department of Education because I see the statistics, I see the results of children not performing as well year after year since the Department of Education was put into effect in 1977, I believe. Our results versus other countries have gone down every single year since the Department of Education was formed. And I just feel like we're better off as a nation with the schools being run by each state, and then subdivide that by each county of each state. I think the children will be better served and better educated if that were the case, you know.
Yeah. Some people have concerns about funding because there
Yeah,
has been federal funds for local schools.
yeah. Well, I mean, we pay federal taxes and they get redistributed back to the states for education. So I'd rather just have those funds go directly to my state government and have them run the schools that way.
Yeah, rather than this ping-ponging around.
Right. So it passes through the federal government and then back to the states. That's how it works. And that is not efficient, as you alluded to a few minutes ago about the efficiency of government, you know.
Yeah.
So
There's all
now,
this stuff too.
excuse me?
There's all this Doge stuff as well.
I was just going to ask you about that. I saw one of your Instagram posts and you were wearing a Doge shirt. I'm assuming that was the
Yeah.
same. Okay. So I know you have something to say about it.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk is just such an incredible businessman. Like from to be able to do what he's done with multiple companies, these things don't happen by accident. People don't just get lucky and like build rockets or have a like successful motor vehicle brand and or do all these things, right? And nobody's perfect, but from a business perspective, he's done many things right and strategy. So in terms of keeping America as like a world superpower, that's very dependent on our economy doing well. And that's one of the things that with our debt growing, we've seen slipping. And there's other countries that would like to take over and become the world's greatest superpower. So we need to stay financially stable on a big picture level to contend with China, Russia, countries like that. I mean, China even did that little passive aggressive thing where they were letting their trash or something float into our territory. These are little tests and feelers to see how much disrespect can we get away with. And if it's a lot, then you're weak. And we know that there's vulnerability that can be exploited, and we're going to crack it open because the Chinese think many, many tens of years ahead. They're very strategic. They have a very light touch in everything they do.
Right.
So from an economic perspective and a protecting the American people, money matters. That's my take, and that's why I think it's gonna keep us at least things at bay.
Yes, we can't help, and we can't help other people unless we help ourselves first, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about it all?
Yeah, I agree with you, Marissa, about Doge. I think it's a necessary, you want to call it an evil. I think it's a necessary evil at the moment. We have to streamline our federal government. You were very eloquent in what you said. No matter what job there is, 20% of the people do 100% of the work or something, or whatever you said. It sounded right, you know. And I believe the same holds true for the federal government, and I think it's too big, you know. So I agree with you 100%. You know, I also agree with you about what you said about Elon Musk. We need somebody with that kind of brain power. If you're going to do something like Doge, he would be the perfect guy to get in there and crack the whip, so to speak. You know. So I'm glad you're willing to pontificate on some of these issues. I know it can be nerve-wracking as to what you disclose or what you don't disclose before you even start your campaign, you know.
Well, remember, I'm from the East Coast, so we're straight shooters.
Mm-hmm.
It will tell, and it shot me in the foot a little bit during my campaign. But on the same time, you have to be yourself, and it's a lot of energy to put forth a false front. So I mean, I am who I am, and people either take it or leave it, and either
Right.
way. So.
But you did get well. First of all, what specifically shot you in the foot?
Well, I'm in a blue area.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you get put Republican on you in this area, it's kind of the kiss of death.
Right.
I mean, truly though. So, yeah.
I understand. So, do you think you'll have more traction statewide though, with the same?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of Democrats who did cross the aisle to vote for me, and I know that because from the communications that I sent out through to my list, I would get responses back, and because people register with the state, right, how they registered, and a lot of Democrats supported me. It was about 50-50. So that tells me that I actually do have a chance, and people are able to connect from across the aisle. So yeah, it's going to definitely be interesting in 2026.
I think it will be. I think it's a national trend. I was shocked when I saw some of the election results from the presidential election, like how many Hispanics voted for Trump, how many African Americans voted for Trump, people that were you could bank them as Democrats, you know.
Yeah.
crossed over the aisle, and I think a lot of Democrats voted for Trump.
What
I
do you
don't.
think it says about people's priorities?
I think he was saying the right things. I think most Americans, in my experience, just have basic common sense. And if you come from a basic common sense approach, I think you'll appeal to the most of the people.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that's exactly what Trump did, and it worked for him. But I think also Kamala Harris was such a horrible, horrible candidate, and the way they handled the Biden, taking it away from Biden and giving it to Harris was done terribly. And no offense to you as a Minnesotan, Tim Walz was a horrible candidate also. So,
yeah,
well, it was like a perfect storm for Trump.
yeah. The whole thing was just a one big bamboozle all around.
Yeah. What are
Yeah,
your thoughts about Tim Walz? He's still your governor.
he is still the governor, and that is one of the seats that'll be open for in 2026, whether or not he chooses to run. Anybody else can jump in. So, I mean, he's the governor, and the people picked him. And there's obviously, he has support for reasons. One thing I also learned running is you never really know what actually goes on unless you're in the room. Um, so that's why I've been a little bit slow to pass judgment on anyone or anything.
Well, what do you mean by that? Can you expound on that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so the media will present one thing. I mean, I was in the news, so I know. And I'm like, that's not even what happened.
Hmm.
Like, good heavens. So but it gets a reaction. And if reaction is the goal, then they're hitting the target, and that is the goal.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I try and like use my discernment when I'm actually interacting with someone. How does my spirit feel? How do they treat me? What decisions do they make? What's their actual action? Like firsthand reports rather than a lot of hearsay.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it remains to be seen.
Was there a smear campaign against you when you were ran for your last office?
I got hit so hard, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it got pretty tiresome. And, the first time around, it's like, all right, guys, like now we got that out of the way. Now there's nothing more to like even suggest or say, and people are tired of it.
Right.
That's why I know it's like 2026. We're gonna do this.
Right. Well, I think there's a general trend away from the traditional politician, if you understand what I mean about that.
Yeah,
I just think people are tired of the rigmarole with politicians, the money involved and the behind the closed doors things that they do. I think it turned off a lot of voters, at least in the last election,
yeah,
as I was able to garner.
yeah. So people you talk to were just tired of some of this sneaky business.
Yeah, and me personally, I'm tired of it. I used to be a Republican. Like I said, I jumped out of the Republican Party 30 some odd years ago. But I was a Reagan Republican when I was coming up. He was running for president, or he was president. I
Yeah,
was too young to vote for him the first time, but I definitely voted for him the second time. And since then it's been, I think a general trend away from parties. That's what I'd love to see, a trend away from parties.
yeah,
I understand your point about trying to get traction as an independent. It's very hard to do without party support.
yeah,
But I'd love to see a third major national party.
yeah, yeah. Whoa, we need someone to lead it or something.
Well, Marissa, there's your calling, damn it.
I'm tired, man. Only so much one person can do.
Well, you know what? You get into that statewide office and you never know.
You
The
never
sky,
know.
the sky could be the limit.
That's right.
Yeah.
That-
So, well, I hope you come back when you do announce what you're running for, because I'd like to get more in depth when you start your campaign. I
Yeah.
guess 2026, you'd have to start sometime this year, right? How does that work?
I'm feeling out how it's going to go in my timing. I kind of let my spirit lead the way. So I know at the latest, May 28th, 2026, that is when it will be at the latest.
Right.
But until then, yeah. And thanks for having me, and we'll have to come back and
I hope you come back when you announce, or soon after you announce, and we'll run you up the flagpole, so to speak, and get your ideas on certain issues. And I certainly appreciate you coming on tonight. It was a pleasure to have you.
thanks for having me, Tom.
All right. Have a great evening, Marissa. Thank you so much.